The trip had been circled on his calendar for months. Ethan had counted down the days the way kids did before summer break, scratching off each square with a kind of quiet anticipation that made the long work weeks bearable. He told everyone he just needed a break. Fresh air, silence, a reset. But the truth was simpler. He needed to be alone. The campsite sat miles off any main road, tucked deep into a forest that swallowed sound and light alike. By the time Ethan parked his truck and stepped out, the sun was already leaning toward the horizon, bleeding amber through the trees. The air smelled like pine and damp earth, clean in a way the city never was. Perfect. He set up camp quickly, tent, fire pit, folding chair. He worked with practiced efficiency, but there was something else beneath it, a nervous energy, like he wanted everything ready before something changed. By the time the fire crackled to life, the forest had begun its slow shift into night. That was when he first noticed how quiet it was. No birds, no insects, no wind, just the fire. Ethan frowned, glancing into the trees. "Weird," he muttered. The word seemed to vanish before it even left his mouth. He shook it off, telling himself it was just his imagination. The woods were unpredictable. Animals came and went. Sounds died down. It wasn't unusual. Still, he kept glancing over his shoulder. As darkness settled fully, the forest seemed to press closer. The firelight flickered against the trunks, casting long, shifting shadows that looked almost like movement. Ethan poked at the fire, trying to steady himself. Then came the first sound, a low, distant howl. It rolled through the trees like something alive, deep, resonant, and wrong in a way he couldn't explain. Ethan froze. "Coyotes," he said aloud, too quickly. "Just coyotes." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't. Coyotes didn't sound like that. This was deeper, heavier, closer than it should have been. The howl came again. This time, it didn't feel distant. It felt like it was listening. Ethan stood slowly, every instinct suddenly alert. He grabbed his flashlight and swept it across the tree line. Nothing, just trees, endless, unmoving trees. He exhaled a shaky breath. "You're fine," he whispered. "You're just tired." The forest remained silent, too silent. He stayed by the fire longer than he planned, feeding it branch after branch, unwilling to let the flames die down. Eventually, though, exhaustion crept in. His eyes grew heavy. The steady crackle of the fire dulled his nerves. Reluctantly, he retreated into the tent. He zipped it shut and lay there, listening. At first, there was nothing. Then, crunch. Ethan's eyes snapped open. It came from outside, close. He held his breath. Crunch, crunch. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling. His chest tightened. He reached for the small hunting knife he'd brought, gripping it tightly. "It's just an animal," he whispered to himself. But animals didn't move like that. There was a rhythm to it, a pattern, like something pacing, like something thinking. The footsteps stopped, right outside the tent. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe. For a long moment, there was nothing. Then, a low, guttural exhale, right at the fabric. Ethan's grip tightened around the knife. He could see it now, a shadow, tall, far too tall. It stretched across the tent wall, distorted by the flickering firelight outside, but unmistakably upright. Not on four legs, on two. The shape tilted slightly, as if studying him. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. "No," he whispered. The shadow shifted. A hand, or something like a hand, pressed lightly against the tent. The fabric dipped inward, and then came the sound. A slow, dragging sniff. The creature inhaled deeply, searching. Ethan's stomach dropped. It could smell him. Suddenly, the shadow jerked back. The silence that followed was worse than anything before. Ethan stayed frozen, waiting. Seconds passed, then minutes. Nothing. Finally, unable to take it any longer, he grabbed his flashlight and knife and unzipped the tent just enough to peer outside. The fire had burned low, casting weak, flickering light. The clearing was empty, no movement, no sound. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Okay," he said, trying to steady his voice. "Okay, you're leaving, first thing in the morning." But deep down, he knew something. Morning felt impossibly far away. He didn't sleep, not really. Every time his eyes closed, he imagined that shadow, that shape, that breath against the tent. The forest remained eerily quiet, until it didn't. Somewhere deep in the night, the howl returned. This time, it was much closer, and it wasn't alone. A second sound joined it, not a howl, a scream. Human. Ethan bolted upright. His pulse roared in his ears. "Hello," he called out instinctively, his voice cracking. "Hey, are you okay?" Silence answered him. Then, another scream, cut off abruptly. Ethan's blood ran cold. There shouldn't have been anyone else out here. He grabbed his flashlight again, hesitation warring with instinct. "Hello," he shouted, louder this time. Nothing, but the forest felt wrong, alive, watching. Against every ounce of better judgment, Ethan stepped out of the tent. "Hello!" he called again. The beam of his flashlight cut through the trees, but it felt weak, insignificant. He took a step forward, then another. The firelight faded behind him, and the darkness swallowed him whole. The deeper he went, the more the forest seemed to close in. Branches clawed at his jacket. The ground shifted unevenly beneath his feet. "Hello," he shouted again. Then, a sound, right behind him. Ethan spun around. The flashlight beam jittered wildly. Nothing, but the air felt heavier now, closer. He turned back and froze. There, between the trees ahead of him, something moved, tall, too tall. It stepped into the faint edge of his light. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. It was wrong. Its body was long and lean, covered in coarse, dark fur that seemed to ripple as it moved. Its limbs bent in unnatural ways, joints too pronounced, too sharp. Its hands, if they were hands, ended in long, curved claws that caught the light. And its face, God, its face, elongated, twisted. A wolf's skull stretched over something that still felt disturbingly human. Its eyes locked onto his. They gleamed, not like an animal's, like something aware, something intelligent, something hungry. Ethan couldn't move. The creature tilted its head slowly, then it smiled, not with lips, with teeth, too many teeth. Ethan stumbled backward, his grip tightening on the knife. "Stay back," he whispered. The creature took a step forward, silent, effortless. Ethan turned and ran. Branches whipped at his face as he sprinted through the forest, panic fueling every step. The flashlight beam bounced wildly, barely illuminating the ground ahead. Behind him, nothing, no footsteps, no sound, but he knew it was there, keeping pace, hunting him. He burst back into the clearing, nearly tripping over the fire pit. He scrambled toward his truck, fumbling for the keys in his pocket. "Come on, come on!" A low growl cut through the air, right behind him. Ethan froze. Slowly, he turned. The creature stood at the edge of the clearing, half hidden in shadow, watching him, waiting. Ethan's hand trembled as he raised the knife. "Stay back," he shouted. The creature stepped forward. Firelight spilled across its body, revealing everything: the scars, the patches of missing fur, the shape of something that had once been human, now warped into something else entirely. Its chest rose and fell with slow, deliberate breaths. It wasn't rushing. It didn't need to. Ethan realized, with a sinking horror, it was playing with him. The creature took another step. Ethan backed toward the truck. Another step. Another. Then, it lunged. Ethan barely had time to react before it slammed into him, sending him crashing to the ground. The knife flew from his hand, disappearing into the darkness. Hot breath filled his lungs as the creature loomed over him, its weight crushing. Up close, the smell hit him. rot, blood, decay. Its jaws opened slowly, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Ethan struggled, pushing against it, but it was like trying to move a mountain. "Please," he gasped. The creature paused, its head tilted again, studying him. For a brief, terrible moment, something flickered in its eyes. Recognition. Then, gone, replaced by hunger. Ethan's scream tore through the forest and was cut short. The fire burned low. The forest fell silent once more. By morning, there was no sign of Ethan. No tent, no truck, no trace, only disturbed earth and deep clawed footprints leading back into the trees. That night, the forest remained quiet until the howl returned, waiting for the next voice to answer.